welcome to the Tear Sheet Podcast. We're here on site in Orlando at the FIS Emerald 2025 conference. Today, we're going to be talking about core modernization in the age of cloud. And as community and regional banks face mounting regulatory pressures and shifting customer expectations, we're going to hear from Peter Boyer at FIS and Craig Focardi at Celent on how institutions are meeting near-term demands while laying the foundation for future success. They'll unpack how cloud-native architectures, API ecosystems, and real-time data processing are reshaping core banking and positioning banks for long-term success in an increasingly dynamic industry. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Let's start with introducing yourselves. Let's hear about you guys.
Sure, I can go first.
Please.
So I'm Peter Boyer. I'm the interim head of banking here at FIS. Been here 2.5 years, and prior to that, I spent 20 years in banking at a national bank.
Welcome.
And really, my role here at FIS is really to help work backwards from what our clients' needs are, help them grow and meet their goals through beautiful products.
Beautiful.
Craig Focardi. I'm a principal analyst in the retail banking practice at Celent. I write research and advise clients on the strategic application of technology. Some of my coverage areas include core banking systems, of course, but also very much in lending across the entire customer engagement chain. And I also cover decisioning and analytics, and that covers AI a little bit as well. I've been an industry analyst for 25 years and spent 20 years in the lending industries here in the United States.
Amazing. Welcome to the show. And can we have a conversation about banking today without talking about AI? I mean, it's like it seems to permeate. We haven't had a podcast over the past 14 months where AI didn't come up. So I assume that's impacting your coverage and your business as well.
It's not really a conversation anymore unless you mention those two letters.
Exactly. You're not cool, I guess. So let's talk about some of the key challenges and opportunities facing community and regional banks today. I think that's a good place to sort of set context.
Yeah, I could start.
Yeah.
Greg, feel free to pile on. So if you really take a step back and think about regional and community banking, there's a couple headwinds or tailwinds, depending on how you look at it, that's really driving how they're thinking about the market. Thing one, deposit growth and profitability growth through lending. Every bank right now is really thinking, how do I grow? What is my customer base? What is my sweet spot in my segment? Am I physical? Am I digital? All of those things come with that particular question. Thing two is operating costs. How do they continue to drive a more efficient bank? AI is a big topic on that particular a big solution on that particular topic. And thing three is fraud. How do you protect the banking ecosystem? How do you protect the bank itself? And how do you protect the customers at that bank? You put those three together and you've got a meaningful amount of where the energy is in the market today.
Yeah, I would add to that the strategy, the product strategy, the company strategy that Peter talked about is a great place to start. Now, how do you enable that with technology is the next question, because the community-based financial institutions, you mentioned operating costs, they oftentimes have trouble scaling, right? They're small, so they don't have scale size, but can technology help them innovate so that they have the same products and services that the larger banks will have, and they can offer them in a meaningful way. The community-based financial institutions like to offer the personal service and the customer engagement, but you need to do that efficiently, and the technology can help the community-based institutions do that.
I think sometimes it does a disservice. I mean, I asked the question, but I have to assume that banks are along the spectrum in terms of modernization. We're talking about like banks in general, but I assume that you're seeing a wide variety of people early on in their process and more mature companies along digitization as well, right?
I think that's right. I think, modernization is one of these words that gets thrown around pretty loosely.
Yeah.
In the end, it's really about how you are leveraging technology and more advanced, more new technology to really drive the outcome that you're doing. If we go back 10 years ago, the big modernization would have been, do you have a mobile app or a web interface, right? Nowadays, it's more about how are you really powering better fraud tools and controls through data. It's really about how are you creating a personal experience in digital through marketing or just the experience layer itself. So I think different banks are at different parts of their journey, but I think to even ask the question, we have to define what does modernization mean to that bank and what are they trying to achieve?
Yeah, and it's interesting, in our research, we have a lot of clients of different sizes, and we sometimes find community banks or credit unions under $10 billion in assets that have many of the same great products and services as the very largest banks have. They're certainly smaller, which in some ways helps them, adapt more quickly.
They're more nimble, I assume. Yeah.
But they don't necessarily have the money or the resources to do that. And so, I mean, that's where FIS can come in, or it really takes a vision of a small organization. The large banks have to manage those big operations. They have those big costs. They have the scale, but it's harder to turn that chip around. Yeah.
How do you talk to your clients about, I guess the competing forces about building things for today and building for the future, right? Like there's some short-termism, got to deliver quick wins, but also you got to build for an infrastructure for the future. How do you balance sort of the different timelines?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And there's actually no easy answer to that, right? So it goes back to the journey piece, but I think the foundations are really important. So I think number one, are you buying or installing a product that your vendor is going to continue to invest in, right? Because you don't just buy it one time. You're actually getting new upgrades, you're getting new connectivity, new feature functionality every time.
You're hitching your horse to a vendor as well, like in their product life cycles.
That's right. That's right. And number two is, what is the connective tissue between that product, the API layers, if you will, that really allow either the bank or the software vendor to really continue to add partners, add new products that actually enhance the value of all the products, not just a single product.
Yeah, there are a lot of things. There's a lot of priorities. There's everything you want to do, and then there are things you can do when you're constrained, and that's where the relationship between solution provider and bank or credit union really comes into play, because an FIS has to align themselves with all their clients. The individual banks wants what they want, but I mean, user groups and organizations that band together can help prioritize quite a bit. But fortunately, in being here at the conference this week, there is a lot of commonality in what people are looking for, and a lot of things you get. Some things you have to wait a little bit for, but everything eventually gets done.
Totally.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears, maybe zoom out a little bit and talk about how FIS is helping clients modernize banking strategies through technologies like APIs, cloud banking, and digital banking platforms.
Yeah.
Throw that over to you.
Yeah. I can start on that one.
Yeah.
So, we're investing in modernization in a couple of ways. It's really akin to where the banks are putting their energy and where their needs are. If I think about first just the API layers. So we have Code Connect. We continue to modernize, enhance, and really invest in that. We have just relaunched our marketplace, allowing for easy browsing, easy consumption of our new APIs, and we continue to add to that through partnerships and our own internal builds all the time. Number two is our digital products. So we have been heavily investing in our D1 Flex product, our new UI UX for regional community banks, and that is just like really come to life, allowing our clients to really present the best kind of digital front end to their clients, really tailored to how they want to consume it, but also what their clients really want to see. And our last one is our payments area, right? That's a big area as well. We typically don't kind of use the word modernization and payments always in the same spaces. We have embedded finance with our Atelio group. We launched that about a year ago, but also through innovations like a money movement hub, really putting all the channels together for the bank to really offer all of those money rails in one experience from a technology perspective, but also integrating that in our D1 Flex product. So it's not just about you have a money movement product and a digital product. Part of modernization is actually getting them to talk together and really present a unified outcome for an end customer.
One of the biggest things for me as an independent industry analyst that I'm impressed with at FIS is that they're providing their customers choice. They're providing them choice and better integration into other FIS solutions that's, let's say, surround the core banking system, but also the choice to go elsewhere to some other third party that's not, FIS branded. And I think that's really servicing the customer. And, while it certainly does expose, the customer to other solutions, it really, I think, builds trust and brand loyalty, in a way that it ends up helping both parties, going forward.
I mean, the theme today is momentum, right? So I'm kind of curious, as it feels like FIS is accelerating its innovation cycles, what role education plays with your clients in helping them and telling them how you guys are evolving and how they can use you.
Yeah, I think that's one of the values, one of the real values of working with a company like FIS, and particularly FIS. So we really have a client base that spans the spectrum of banks and also other like financial institutions, fintechs, corporates, really thinking about not just the breadth of products, but the breadth of knowledge and engagements we have. What are the biggest banks thinking about? What are they doing? How do we make that accessible? And consult with our clients further down the banking size spectrum to really allow the industry to move forward together and make these large, where the focus of the large banks is what makes them competitive, and really scale it to the smaller end. But it all comes through how we consult, share, and really work backwards from how what our client strategy is and how we could help them be successful.
I want to talk a little bit about agility and competitiveness. So I'm curious also how FIS is helping community and regional banks, particularly, stay agile and competitive as customer needs, technologies, and regulatory demands continue to evolve. Feels like a very chaotic environment.
Yeah, it is chaotic. I don't know if I use the word chaotic.
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of change and speed of change that's out there. When we think about how do we help our client base, and you ask about the regional community banks, it involves understanding where they want their particular client segment to go. It's not us dictating where regional community banking should go. It's really about understanding the various personas within that category and identifying where we could help them through building organically, through partnering with other third parties, or actually acquiring a company like we did with TSYS Global Payments just a few weeks ago. Just an example of, it's not just about building a product set that really enables the bank to be successful. It's also about doing that with speed. Sometimes that answer is build inside, sometimes it's buy, sometimes it's partner.
Yeah. I think for community banks, you mentioned chaotic. The technology world is chaotic and moving quickly. The businesses for community banks and credit unions is not without its challenges, right, and the risks, but is perhaps a little bit less chaotic in terms of the strategies that those organizations have in the business policies they have. So I think that helps them deal with some of the chaos provided by external market events or the technology opportunities. I mean, the challenge does remain, though. How do I bring in the new talent, technologies as quickly and efficiently as I can? Yeah, and sometimes some are a little bit slow to do that. Other times the ones that have a strategy and a mindset of innovation can work with FIS and take advantage of those things faster than their competitors often do.
Yeah. Craig, you mentioned earlier about the agility and the need to be agile in this market. I'm kind of curious what role you see. Maybe we can stick with regional and community banks, agility playing in their competitiveness long term. If you said it's their way they can kind of manage external chaos, but I guess what benefit does it have to a smaller bank to be able to be agile?
Yeah. Some markets can turn quickly, right? We've seen since during the pandemic, we've seen interest rates plummet and lending volume go up, and then inflation go up and interest rates go up and lending volume go down. And so those are the big shifts. And as Peter said earlier, those are lending is a big revenue driver in a retail bank. And so they need to be able to pivot that way. And it's their operations as well as their technology if they need to hire staff to expand. And they can do that profitably with operating efficiency if they've got good technology solutions to support those big shifts in the market.
I think there's also a piece there around fraud. Fraud just requires everybody to be agile.
Yes.
Like there is no set in forget it.
They're not resting.
Because it's not just about preventing fraud with your controls. It's about learning the new trends. Probably some of the most innovative people out there are the fraudsters.
Absolutely.
The bad guys are highly innovative. They're really fast. And they really try to poke holes in the defenses of these banks and corporations. So I think this is a place where not only do regional community banks need to be nimble and agile and adaptive, but also the collective community needs to be nimble, agile, adaptive around fraud.
Yeah, I mean, community-based financial institutions, they need fraud, AI, ML types of solutions because the fraudsters are innovating with AI also, right? And so everyone needs to keep up with that. Why? Because the fraudsters, it's like water. It will go downhill and find its level. And so it will keep looking until it finds vulnerabilities in the market. So they definitely do need to protect from that quite strongly.
We had a guest on earlier who said the fraudsters have all the same AI tools and advanced tools that the banks have with no regulation, which I thought was a funny way of putting it.
Right.
But speaking of regulation, I'm kind of curious. We have a new administration without getting political here, but things are shifting now. And I guess I'm wondering what you're seeing your clients do to stay ahead of things.
I think you need to monitor those things, and stay the course. If we just talk about the tariff issue, we need to look at costs going up. and so forth. So that's the starting point. But how is it going to trickle down, to my banking business, if you will? I mean, in the business lending area, maybe it's the business customers that are going to get impacted if they're importing goods and services from overseas, and the cost of those things go up. The cost to the retail consumer are going to be happening a little bit, down the road. But I think that's an opportunity for financial institutions as well. How do I help my customer adapt to things, and do they need, larger loan, different kind of loan, if some of their costs are going up, just as an example.
Yeah, I think, well, and I'm not making a political comment to your lead in.
Yeah.
I think it's when you talk about regulatory and the time it takes, where they focus, it's important to separate what is the aspirations of an administration and where is it actually translated to written policy. And if it's written policy, where does that translate to actions? Right? I think we understand that from the current administration, the desire is less regulatory overhead. I think we have heard about some things that will be changing, but I'm not sure they've fully changed in past regulatory policy. And then there is a regulatory focus. We have seen, things speed up, things slow down. Like one of the examples of things that we believe will be speeding up is banking M&A. More banks will consolidate. They'll buy other banks. I think the statistic I heard from a client that's actually here is their last acquisition took 500 days to get approved. 562, I think they said. The belief among everybody here is that that will be a number much lower than that going forward.
Interesting. I want to shift a little bit. And one of the things we've covered over the years is the impact on the financial services industry from changing customer expectations. Kind of this pull idea that customers who are using Amazon and Netflix and feeling the personalization, the customization tools, and that their institutions recognize them, the companies they choose to do business with recognize them. I'm wondering how changing expectations is going to impact banks to stay competitive in the market, maybe short term and longer term. How are you seeing your clients deal with that?
I think there's sort of two horizons here. I think pretty much every bank I talk to has the urgent need and desire to feel and know that they are being market competitive with their experiences. And we order Ubers from our phone, we order pizzas, like whatever, you order something and like the package comes the next day from Amazon. We're just trained like that. And that actually shouldn't be any different in banking, right? So I think that's the first thing. I think there are banks of all sizes that are looking to be really differentiated. What products are they using? How are they personalizing? The whole digitization isn't just about the visual pieces. It's about like the data and the personalization and the custom offers that come on top of that. It's not just as simple as the visual. It's about the real physical experience as well.
Yeah, on the Celent research side, we do an annual survey every year, our Dimensions Research Report, and the number one product area for IT investment for this year and the first half of next year is digital customer engagement technologies, digital channel technologies, and they're always somewhere near the top. And it's somewhat ironic in that, because that's the first big area of tech spending for internet and mobile going back about 20, 25 years.
Right.
But then, to your point about customer expectations, it's a process of continuous improvement, and the banks having to keep up with the Googles and Apples of the world. And I think, financial institutions and their solution providers do an excellent job of doing that. I think for the customer, what they want to see is it doesn't need to be perfect and exact and on the leading edge or the bleeding edge like some of the other tech stuff. They just want to see their financial institution continuously improving, and I think they'll stay happy as long as things are always getting better for them, and the things that are automated don't break. Yeah.
What are some of the biggest opportunities you guys are excited about when you come to business, when you come to work every day, like in the industry, say in the short term?
Gosh. For me, it's one of the things that actually keeps me in sort of like in banking, but also really brought me to FIS. Banking is so critical to the economy, the global economy, not just the US economy. It relies on trust, it relies on functionality, and it's ever changing. It is a fast changing area. So for me, that's what I'm excited about. That's where the momentum is. It's really about how do we help people succeed, right? That's really what we're all trying to do. You succeed through saving, spending, lending, right? And I think that's what FIS's mission is how do you unlock financial technology to the world?
Yeah.
What you, Craig?
Yeah, for Celent, it's similar. And in fact, in a lot of ways, we're in a similar business in that we're here to help people solve problems and help run their businesses better. And so that's what excites me. Not only fixing things and putting out the fire, but helping them innovate and build a better mousetrap, for the future.
And we've ended the conversations here over the past couple of days with a very, very important question. I'm going to put it to both of you guys. Who's your favorite Disney character and why? The why is very important here.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say Goofy because I remember reading one of many stories to my daughter when she was growing up, and there's this one story about Goofy, and there's winning some prize at a picnic or some kind of event or something like that, and all the other characters had built their own little things and had their little booths and whatnot. Goofy didn't have a booth, but he went around from booth to booth and helped everybody else make their thing better, and I guess he won the prize for whatever it was for the best new thing or the best thing at the picnic. So that's the first thing that popped into my head. So that's my best story.
Okay.
That's good. I feel like this is one of those questions where after I walk away, I'm
You're going to
like,
have a better answer, right?
well, the first one that comes to mind, which my daughter actually makes fun of me for. So I've experienced her poking at me on this question, but I would say Mulan.
Okay.
Right? Like, I have a teenage daughter now. She was much smaller when we actually came here to Disney World. But it's a really powerful story, bunch of cultural undertones, but bunch of gender undertones, but ultimately it's about, a culture that ultimately changed at the end, but also someone who, excelled through challenge. Right. And I love that.
Great answer.
Yeah. Thanks.
Peter, Craig, thank you for joining us on Tearsheet Podcast today.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.